So students, we are to begin with the topic on the need for environmental conservation, or what is the need for conserving the environment, what is our role, or what role do we play in the conservation of environment. Before we understand the need for environment conservation, it is very important for us to understand what is the meaning of environment conservation. Students, environment conservation refers to the practice of protecting our environment. Every element of our environment, biotic and abiotic, needs to be protected for the benefit of human beings, the current generation as well as the future generation, and most important need or for environment conservation is conserving the environment itself in order to sustain life for a very long period of time for our future generation to come. So we will have a look at why we need to conserve the environment in greater detail. So environmental conservation is the act of protecting our natural resources, both biotic and abiotic resources, by making use of more and more means of renewable energy, making more use of renewable resources, so that the non-renewable resources do not get depleted or exhausted or finished. If the non-renewable resources get depleted or exhausted, then there will be nothing left for the survival of our future generation. So the act of environmental conservation basically involves reducing the waste, planting more trees, avoiding deforestation, and making more and more uses of the renewable resources. So we will now look at a diagram to show you the need for environmental conservation. We discussed right now the most important need for environmental conservation is to sustain for the future generations, or to meet the needs of the future generations. The second most important need for environmental conservation is to minimize pollution for the healthy life of living beings, all living beings including humans. The next is to solve artificial and natural problems which are caused due to harm being done to the environment. Degradation of environment also is leading to a lot of species of living organisms, animals becoming rare and endangered. So we need to conserve the environment so that we protect the rare and endangered species of animals in the ecosystem. And you also need environmental conservation to maintain a balance in nature between the biotic and the abiotic factors. So you also have environmental conservation to protect or maintain the biodiversity. That is, there is a need for biodiversity. There are variety of living organisms on this earth or in the environment. There are variety of plants, variety of animals. In order to maintain the balance in the ecosystem, we need to maintain biodiversity. Okay, you can't only have a lot of herbivores. To control the population of herbivores, you need a good number of carnivores. So this is an example of what I told you is to maintain biodiversity. So students, the need for environmental conservation has now been well understood. Before we go ahead with our topic, there are a few questions which I would like to answer for you, which will be taken up now. Now students, there is a very important statement which I told you that I need to discuss with you. The statement is that environment is given to us on lease by our future generation, and it is not a property that has been given to us by our ancestors. Environment has been given on lease means environment or this nature has been given on rent to us by our future generation. It is not a property which we have been given by our ancestors so that we can deal with it in the way that we want. Students, all of us are going through the current situation of the coronavirus, the pandemic that is affecting around more than 180 countries across the globe. Students, this is all a result of human interference, over exploitation of the environment and the natural resources. It is an impact or consequence of man making use of the intelligence that he has been gifted to exploit and overexploit nature. What happens is when you cut down forest and make way for industries or human development or human settlements in order to increase or to accommodate the ever increasing population, you are actually robbing the animals, the wildlife of their natural habitat. So they are coming more closer and closer in contact to human beings. Thereby they transmit these viruses and diseases to humans. That's how humans are coming in close. You are building roads through forest, you are building expressways through biodiversity areas. So obviously you are coming in very close contact with environment, you are destroying the habitat of living organisms and you are going into their homes, so obviously they will come closer to you. You have heard many instances of leopards being found in housing societies. These housing societies are built on forest land, so if you have encroached on their environment, obviously students, they will encroach into the places that you live. So the point that I am trying to make is that human intervention in the environment is causing a very harmful effect on us and the same harmful effect for our future generations. So we need to be very sensitive to our environment. We need to take concrete steps in order to conserve our environment, and therefore some years ago many people have understood the importance of conservation of environment. Many books have been written. The source of the statement that I am telling you, it's not known who has written this statement or who has said this statement, but of course this statement, irrespective of who has said it or who has mentioned it, it is a very important statement and we need to think about this statement, and not only think but we have to act in a manner that we follow the importance that has been indicated in the statement by conserving and taking actions to conserve our environment, to preserve our ecosystems for future generations. I once again repeat what the statement is and what I am going to discuss, how we answer or how we explain that statement. The statement is that this environment has been given to us on lease by our future generation. That means it has been rented out to us to use it till we live. And it is not a property which have been given by our purvaj, our ancestors. So it's a very important and interesting statement. So let's have a look at the explanation of the statement. Students, the statement implies that this environment belongs to everyone. It belonged to our ancestors. It is now belonging to us, and it is going to belong to the future generations. So we have to conserve the environment in the very same way that our ancestors have done for so many years before. Now we are using our intelligence as newer and newer discoveries are made. We are using our environment to exploit the natural resources. This statement highlights the fact that humans are using their intelligence, their knowledge of science and technology to exploit all the natural resources. In fact, there is an over-exploitation of natural resources in such a rapid manner that there is a fear or danger of natural resources getting exhausted and not being left for the future generations. So this statement in fact directly highlights the importance of us using the natural resources very judiciously, very carefully. We should explore more ways of generating energy. We should use renewable sources of energy like solar energy, wind energy, tidal energy, geothermal energy. There are so many renewable sources of energy which we can use in order to conserve the non-renewable resources like fossil fuels, then so many other non-renewable resources like wood. We can conserve all this for future generations. We need to conserve our forest. Human beings are treating environment as a raw material to fulfill their needs and make their life comfortable. So I hope you understood the importance of this statement. It means that just as we are enjoying the fruits of energy being conserved by our ancestors, so we as a current generation have to be responsible enough to preserve the environment. In fact, we should enhance the environment by planting more and more trees so that our future generation remains secure, healthy, and they would thank the current generation for having gifted them with a very healthy environment. So students, thank you. Take care. We meet during the next video lecture.